Hey, everybody, welcome to What Drives Us, episode 504 for June 14th, 2023. My name is Russell Frost, and if you don't remember, I am the part-time host of this show, and here we are. We're back. I'm back. I took a little vacation, 3 weeks, and I literally let the place burn. Hey, there's Paul. And I cannot thank enough Georgia McKenzie and Casey Green for keeping the ship in the water, upright, not on fire,
and despite the best of our abilities.
And with literally zero help. I mean, I was so unhelpful that for 3 weeks, I haven't even thought about what drives us, which brings me to the really happy place of missing all these guys, and Georgia, I shouldn't say guys, all these humans, these folks, as the saying goes, I guess, because 3 weeks without them, it's like, how can anybody go 3 weeks without those friendly faces?
Yeah. And as soon as Russell got out of cell phone range, Google changed the password, so we were locked out. That's why only one of them was locked.
Yeah.
We did record the others at the usual time, so once they're up there, you'll be able to see them.
Google basically said,
we have some shows we're going to be taking care of here, and getting those uploaded, and we'll figure it out. I was in Big Sur for part of the time. It was a nice drive. I've never done it before. And it's weird, you're born in California, you live here most of your life, and there's still big parts of it that you haven't seen, and that was one of them. Got to do most of that. A lot of the road is still closed because of landslides from the winter rains, and a lot of the beaches were closed because apparently they're only open on the weekends. I don't know. The California State Park people are always wonderful. The rangers are the best. And they immediately blamed it on the National Forest. Well, the National Forest Service runs that beach. And I'm like, those lazy National Forest Service bastards.
Forest runs the beach. Okay.
Yeah. Well, and it is Big Sur. There is mountain, there is tree, there is beach. They're all sort of geographically co-located. So it's nonetheless a wonderful trip. Can't wait to go back. What does somebody who drives 40 hours a week for a living do? Yeah, gets in his car and drives for 8 hours. I might be stupid. Let me just admit that right now. I might be stupid. But anyway, huge thanks to Casey and Georgia and everybody else who participated while I was gone. I don't even know who that is. That's how removed I've been. You
didn't watch us at all?
I didn't even open your emails. Okay.
Oh my God.
Nothing. Nothing.
So wounded.
I'm glad I'm back now, and I wanted all of you. That's why I came back. I'm a dysfunctional dad. Let's just admit that. Okay.
Oh, fine.
I'm not
That's
a
one
good
more
one.
abandonment issue.
Paul's like, fuck this. I'm out. Anyway, let me introduce this magnificent panel and get this show on the road instead of rambling. My co-host and, my fellow Californian with whom we were just chatting about what the summer holds for us, Georgia McKenzie.
Good. What is it? Evening, everybody. Definitely evening for you guys, and definitely evening over here. Thanks for joining us. We've got a lot on the table today, so I'm not going to keep you. Let's move on.
Thank you so much. We do have a lot on the table. He's holding a child, and luckily it's his child. Our friend of the Mid-Atlantic region.
Not some rando. Rando baby found.
Casey Green.
Yeah. So we ended up doing the heat pump dryer washer combo thing I told you guys I thought was really cool. It shipped and arrived on the opening day, the on sale day, and it's been a blast. It doesn't use a lot of power or make a lot of noise, but as I said on the Tesla Life, I did learn that you can't completely fill the drum since it is ventless. You need a place for the air to circulate in there. So one less blanket next time, and I won't end up with hot wet blankets. But other than that, it's been faster than the timer says it's going to take. It's like you put it in, it's like, all right, the wash is going to take 40 minutes and the dry is going to take an hour or 3. And then, an hour and a half, 2 hours later, clean, dry clothes after you put them in dirty, dry clothes.
Cool.
It's like magic.
Right.
Yeah. I just like the fact that it's washer dryer built together, so you don't have to, take the time to swap things in between. It just does it all. That's awesome.
Exactly. And then, the heat pump part makes the whole thing runs on a 120 volt outlet, so it's going to use less power.
Awesome.
Are you going to put a link up to the product you used?
Yeah, I can do that.
You should. We'd like to,
or a link to a YouTube review that got you to choose this one or something.
It is absolutely, yeah. Some of the stuff I'd like to do on the show is talking about cool products like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this one's called the GE Ultrafast Profile, and I also looked at the LG Stacker heat pump, but it was considerably more expensive, and then you still had to move the clothes from the bottom to the top.
Oh,
it was taller than my wife, and also out of stock.
That's definitely an issue.
Yeah.
Well,
the other cool thing about this one is you get a month of detergent you can stack in there, and just push go for a month.
Wow!
Wash these clothes. Wash these clothes.
Yeah, this sounds really cool.
I got nothing. Sounds awesome. Next up, although I normally credit Casey as being Mr. Supercharger, I think Mr. Coughlin is also Mr. Supercharger. Mark, they're just putting in the transformers on the Escondido Supercharger station.
Ah, very nice.
Mere 3 blocks from my house. So now I can go harass Tesla owners directly on my way home every day. Just drive by. Hey, how's it going, guys?
Yeah. Speaking of superchargers in your neck of the woods, Russell, I stopped at the Big Sur supercharger off the PCH when I was in California, and it was a very cool place because you had to wind up a mountain road up the side of a mountain, and then you ended up with a bit of an overview into the ocean from the supercharger site. It was a very picturesque supercharger.
I mean, it would have to be.
Yeah,
it would have to be. That's beautiful. Well, I will keep funneling some information as soon as they're actually done with it. I would imagine in about a week or so, I'll send you some video or some stills, probably of Tesla owners throwing stuff at me, asking me to leave
as you're running away. Yeah, that sounds good.
Speaking of superchargers, Patrick had a question for you.
No, what? No, we have to finish intros here.
Oh,
Mark.
Yeah. Introducing ourselves, guys.
Our friend in MrOEVA.org and carswithcords.net, Patrick Connor.
Hello. If Mark's not going to mention it, I'll throw this out there. The Tesla Life was just featured on the Now You Know channel on Tesla Time News. We got to do a couple articles on there, and so congrats to Mark and the Tesla Life.
Yeah,
congratulations.
Cha-ching, cha-ching.
They do have a big audience, so hopefully we can pull a few of those over to watch our coolness on the Tesla Life.
There congrats, you go. Mm-hmm. There you go. Try to be a better show than... Oh, I shouldn't say that. Wait, I can say that on this show, right?
It's your show.
Sure.
The Tesla Life's way better than Now You Know, okay? Let's just leave it at that.
Appreciate the compliment.
And last and certainly not least, he is the owner and founder of Boulder Hybrids in Boulder, Colorado, Mr. Paul Guzzi.
Hey, it's got a bit of daylight here. Been having some crazy Colorado weather the last month. It's been raining a lot, which is great for you guys downstream in California. You're going to be getting some water in that reservoir there in Lake Mead.
Yeah, which is basically like an empty, dry bowl right now. Yeah. So, yeah, that's a very good thing.
Colorado River could use some water.
Oh, man. Yeah, that's a sad river. Well, thank you so much for that. Let's see. Once again, thank you to Georgia and Casey and to all of you who kept watching while I was gone. And let's start off with Casey Green. Casey, kind of news bomb me in a good way. That's not a complaint, in a good way.
Nude bomb, you say? Oh, news bomb. I'm sorry. My hearing's going.
Nude bomb? Yeah, he nude bombed me. And your daughter's out of the room, right, Casey? Okay.
She's over here trying to stick her fingers in a
She's
DC
right there,
socket.
okay.
Oh no!
Oh no.
Maybe some parenting is required.
There's obviously tons of news in the charging world, and I'm going to let Casey present it however he wants. So, Casey Green, what the hell is NACS, and why do I care?
Yeah.
Okay. So, you might remember a few years ago, Tesla said they were opening their charging for everybody to go, but there were strings attached, and we could see some of those strings publicly. But then there were more strings that we couldn't see publicly that dissuaded anybody else from signing up for this connector. At the time, it's called the Tesla 2 connector, TSLA 2. And as Bruce points out in the chat, our friends over at Aptera got 40,000 citizens to go through and in support of opening this connector up, allowing more companies to use it, making it equitable and free to use. And Tesla took them up on that. So a few months ago, about 5 or 6, they did that. They said, "Here, we're going to open source it." They didn't, as you'll hear later on, they didn't standardize it, but they open sourced it. So anybody who wants this can copy it, use it, and don't have to worry about retribution from Tesla. And then, like I said, just 6 short months later, Ford signs up and says, "Hey, we'll take that. Thank you very much." And then they made a deal with Tesla to actually also use the Supercharger network, which was not part of this open sourcing. And then just about a week later, we ended up with our friends at General Motors. They said, "That's a good idea. We'll take you up on that as well." And from there, the industry went wild. A little backstory on this NACS connector, this Tesla 2 connector. Back in 2009, J1772 was standardized. At the time, Tesla had just come out with a vehicle called the Tesla Roadster, the original one. And you need a way to get the power in there, right? So they had invented a connection called the TSLA 1 connector. It was just called the connector at the time. Now it's Tesla 1 when the new one came out. And then in 2012, the first Model S started to roll out, and they needed a way to make these cars road trippable because the electric car Northwest Highway, I forget what the actual proper name for that is called. Was it Patrick?
Are you talking about the Green Highway? Was it
Canada?
The electric highway, I think.
The electric highway, yes.
I have to look, yeah.
It was functional. It was 80 amps, but it was level 2, and you need to be able to take real road trips without compromise. And so they needed a way to DC fast charge this. And at the time, nothing existed yet. And so by the time the car was about to come to market in September of 2012, the CharIN group finished. It wasn't even CharIN at the time. It was just like Audi, Volkswagen, Porsche, a few German companies basically had finished standardizing their what they call CCS, and so that was what they were using in Europe, and the Germans were able to push the EU to standardize on their version of CCS for Europe, which is called CCS2, which can do 3-phase AC charging. And in the US, eventually, late 2012, they came out with CCS1 over here, which GM and Ford and pretty much any engineer has said is clunky and blah, blah, blah. And so that brought us to Tesla opening it up the first time, and then opening it up for real and changing the name to NACS, North American Charging Standard. And after Ford joined in, CharIN had a really scathing kind of self-serving, "Don't go over there, stay with us, continue to pay our licensing fees" memo. And then just this week, after GM came out with theirs, I was like, how bad is this memo going to be? Because they had another memo right after Tesla opened it up saying, "Don't go over there. It's not a standard. It's not really standards. It's open source." Not quite the same thing. So it's true. They didn't really lie in any of it, but they were stretching all the words they were using. So now they have a statement they put out that says they stand behind CCS and MCS. MCS is the megawatt charging system, which is a big honking. The new one is a triangular mess that is meant to charge large vehicles up to 3 megawatts, but as low as 1 megawatt, where the NACS can go up to 1 megawatt without any changes and without liquid cooling the cables. So, but then they say, you know, we stand behind our stuff, but also we support the standardization of Tesla's NACS. And so they wanted to help Tesla get this thing through a standards body like ISO, IEC, IEEE, SAE, or ANSI. Just gives them a little extra peace of mind that this thing has been nerded out enough that Tesla can't say, oh, yeah, it's open source, but we have a new open source version, because now it's got to go through 50 committees and 90 tests before it can be changed. It gives them a little stability. And they dedicated some resources to help this happen. Like, you know, if they need a nomination, hey, yeah, we nominate this thing. Or if they need some phone numbers, hey, here, we'll help you do that. And I think what really settled it for them, other than Ford and GM leaving them, was that for the communication protocols for the NACS, Tesla uses CCS signaling. So it still left them in control of the signaling, and also it makes it so that none of the other members who choose to adopt the NACS have to reprogram their computers, other than the ability to switch between AC charging and DC charging based on where you plug in. But the people who make the chargers, they don't have to worry about anything. If they're making CCS, they continue doing that. If they make J1772, they continue signaling that way. And based on what language the charger speaks when the car plugs in, the car knows, hey, I need to move these pins over here for DC or back over here for AC to bypass the onboard charger for batteries. So that was a surprise to see CharIN actually give a softer response. And then after GM got on, and in between CharIN and the others, we had ChargePoint, Blink, ChemPower, Tritium, EVgo, Wallbox, and ABB. The ABB makes chargers. A couple of these make chargers. A couple of them are charging networks. Also, Flow Charging in Canada. And then one that was surprising to me is a company that's partially owned by GM, the company called Pure Watercraft. So boats. They also signed on, and I thought that was pretty amusing, and also I like it. And then, you know, we started speculating on who's next. I mean, it's just been there was my friend Kyle Connor went over to a conference called the EVS, which is all the charging equipment providers and manufacturers and component vendors got together and were showing their wares so they could get customers, an industry event. And it was amazing when he did his walkthrough how many like quickly printed signs we had about, hey, you know, we supporting the NACS. And then one company even flew in a prototype that had a CCS or J1772 that had been converted over to NACS, and they could charge at CCS speeds, which is really cool.
So,
yeah,
because I'm the least intelligent person on this panel.
Okay.
Have we actually made progress?
Yeah, I would say so, because this connector is a little more friendly to folks who are mobility limited, because now you don't need two hands and some strength in your upper body to deal with this. That doesn't mean the cables are necessarily going to get any thinner.
Yeah.
They still have to either buy Tesla's cable or spec thinner cables, but now the handle isn't going to require all of that as well. One of the funny things in Kyle's video was the guy was showing off the latest prototype of the MCS connector, because I used to think it was this cute little triangle thing. You can look back at the previous shows where we did, and I was like, yeah, MCS is cool. This guy was actually holding it in his hands versus just on stage where it looked smaller. It was like the size of the guy's head, and he was like, yeah, and it was just the like a pigtail and the handle. I was like, oh, that's. Yeah, I can see charging a boat with that, but I could not see charging a heavy loader or a semi truck with it, because it's just ridiculously large.
So I want to.
I was saying, good for consumers who buy a GM or Ford, because there's way more Tesla chargers out there than anyone else right now,
and they have a better uptime.
They allow you to use them, and they have a much higher uptime than any other charger. So
exactly.
Right. That's the answer to your question, Russell. Have we made progress? And the answer is absolutely, because there were not good, reliable charging networks out there other than Tesla. And now we will have everybody able to use that reliable network that's out there.
And on a handful of superchargers, I think 9 or 10, Tesla put it on what we call the Magic Dock, which would allow regular CCS cars to charge. But the beauty of what Ford and GM agreed to is their customers don't have to wait on Magic Docks to proliferate. they can just use the adapter that comes from their provider or from Tesla via their provider, and just go any new supercharger they can use. The oldest of them don't speak the right protocol.
Now, you know me, I'm supportive, and I don't really care who wins this fight, and I genuinely mean that. This isn't like I hate everything Elon does. I do, but not in this specific instance. Like, if the Tesla standard is the one that works, and there's a bunch of them, and everybody's going to sign on, good, because for the electric vehicle owner, that's a win.
Mm-hmm.
A common failure point for CCS is the locking pin. It's very exposed. American CCS, European CCS is the lock is on the car, just like with Tesla cars. And so one of the things that the NACS does, aside from not having any moving parts, the lock is on the car. So if you manage to break a lock, only that one car is down, and not a whole
not
station.
The charger itself.
50 cars waiting on it. Exactly. And then the other thing that they do is they make sure that in their specification for the drop test, rather than saying, hey, you must drop 1,000 times, they say you must drop 1,000 times or however many times, not on the laboratory floor, but on the kind of surface that this thing is going to be installed on. So if you're going to install this on asphalt, concrete, gravel, grass, whatever, you're going to test it there, and you're going to drop it in multiple different ways. That way, if it starts breaking apart in the lab, you need to make it more robust rather than.
Can we start a pool? How long before a Lightning owner and a Tesla owner get into a gun battle?
That's already happened.
Yeah.
Okay.
Probably.
I mean,
In Texas, probably.
And again, that's not against Tesla owners or Ford owners in particular. You pick two EV brands, whatever. You know what I mean? But that's just
we already had Tesla on Tesla fights, so it's only inevitable.
Tesla on Tesla violence.
Oh yeah. Somebody jumped the line like this guy. Nobody tried to fight me. They didn't know the difference between me and the guy who was there. But the other beauty of this is now with so many more customers than all of your other non-Tesla charging providers, the manufacturers and the charging operators, they're going to offer more for, they want to get a bigger piece of that pie. And then that also gives Tesla reason to make more sites and bigger sites. Like you notice in California, they don't really do anything smaller than 20 stalls now when they roll them out, whereas their minimum stall worldwide seems to be about 6 to 8 these days.
And now that all the other charging companies are going to have to compete directly with Tesla for customers, they are going to change the way they play the game. I think they're going to do the large installs. They're going to have uptime. In fact, Tesla's even said that if you meet their minimum requirements, that they will put you in their map and for routing. And so you have to have plug and charge where you just plug it in and it works. You have to have I remember exactly what uptime, 95% uptime. You have to have a certain number of stalls, 6 or more, and then those charging stations will appear in Tesla's routing and map planning.
And the car will do it automatically. Like, hey, this guy met the criteria. All right, Bob's charging stalls are online. And if you fall below for too long, the car, the first car to fail there, once you cross over that other threshold, that car will take you out until you requalify.
Yeah, so they can update their maps dynamically, and if you fall out, all of a sudden, boom! Why are we getting no customers? Because we have half of our stalls out. We better go fix them.
Yeah, it's very similar to what Ford does with the Charge Angel program. Ford goes around and has a team that actually plugs into all the chargers, make notes, look at the data, and then they add and remove you from the Ford Lightning and Mach-E charging maps. And Tesla's just doing it with a computer instead of a human team.
Right, because every Tesla that goes out there is a connected car that gives them all sorts of data. They don't have to hire people to drive around from supercharger to supercharger, even though Casey would do it for free.
Just going to say, that's what Casey does. You just put Casey out of a job.
Well, Tesla knows pretty quick when their chargers are broken. So
yeah, because the charger itself has a connection, either cell or Starlink, and then the car has another connection. And there have been times when, where you have a site that is out of cell signal, and before Starlink was a thing, they would actually push the firmware to the car, and then the next car to go plug at that station would actually update the whole station. It's pretty cool.
Interesting. Well, I'll be very interested with one so close to my house, just observing it at different times of day, seeing the activity there. My main interest, in a way, is to see the impact on the businesses that are located around it and see if any of them are adjusting hours, if they're open differently, if They're providing services for people that are there charging. It's a very weird placement, not in a really bad way. I just wouldn't have predicted it.
And that was one of the good things that Jim Farley pointed out. It's like when they went on that road trip where he and his kids were in the Ford, I'm assuming Lightning, but it could have been a Mach-E, and they kept saying, let's stop there, let's stop there. And he said, no, we have to go around behind the gas station and the dumpster and plug in back there. Now they can charge it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, there you go. Well, Casey, thank you so much for that. It's obviously an ongoing story as more people get involved. But again, I guess the short takeaway is electric vehicle owners win when we all agree on something, or at least on a couple of things, and then hopefully those go forward and they're maintained better than the ragtag network of dysfunctional chargers that we have now.
Yeah,
Well,
and
this
the other thing
kind
going
of
for
like
all of
allowing
this,
you to play your Betamax tapes in a VHS machine.
exactly, yeah.
Basically,
And then the other good thing about this versus Betamax and VHS or HD DVD and Blu-ray, or when CHAdeMO started to really go down the hill quickly, is that they are converters between both directions. There's converters between NACS and CCS to NACS is coming out, and so we're not stranding anybody else other than Leaf owners and people who have like the old iMeave and a couple of the Mitsubishi SUV.
Outlander?
Outlander, yeah.
Yeah. So
But
on this
Outlander
show,
does.
we've been talking about EVs and charging for a long time, but in the big picture, EVs are still in the first inning. And so this is very early in the game, coming down to one standard. It has to be the right way to do it. And we've had 2 or 3, depending on which way you slice the cake, including CHAdeMO and CCS and Tesla.
Yeah.
And you can't have 3 networks nationwide or continent-wide. We have to pick one and go for it.
And then you still have J1772 in the mix too. So having one connector for everything should make the cost of making the adapters, making the cards, everybody's costs will go down with this, and that hopefully will pass on to us as consumers.
And let me be clear, I agree with Patrick. It helps all of us. It helps us if we agree on the standard and just move forward with one thing. But I'm shocked. I'm frankly shocked. I thought it was still a few years before that something like that would happen.
Yeah, when they announced it and nobody seemed to say anything about it except Aptera, this isn't going to happen. And then all of a sudden, a week later, like, oh my goodness, there's like 20 companies on this thing.
I wonder when Volkswagen, they might be a holdout because they did Electrify America and Electrify Canada, and those were CCS. So
I think on Ionity or Electrify North America, I think they will be, or anybody who was on that CCS2 that push in Europe. I think those will be our people that are at the back of the bus. And one thing that I had a question on that I'm not sure is Honda is using a couple of GM Ultium platforms for some of their vehicles. So are they gonna, if they don't announce, or worse, they hold out, are they gonna ask GM to put the old port on their copies of the car, or are those gonna be just like the only 2 that have a different port than everything else?
It will be interesting to see what Toyota and Honda do in this space.
Yeah, and JT has a good question about 800-volt systems. The NACS can handle 1,000 amps at 1,000 volts, and at the moment, no Tesla Supercharger, even the V4 in Europe, goes that high because so far they've only had one customer and their batteries weren't that high. But now they have an incentive to hurry up and get out their high voltage implementation.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for that. Let's go to Paul, where I understand Colorado's giving away e-bikes. All I need to do is show up and I get... Oh, not quite.
Not quite giving away, but on a smaller scale, EV-wise, Governor of Colorado signed a bill a couple months ago that goes into effect in August here, where there'll be at a state level incentives to buy e-bikes. And
awesome.
We talk about cars and we talk about transit, but for many months of the year, an e-bike is a great way to commute and run your errands. So basically, the state of Colorado is going to give, depending on your income level, they're going to definitely help lower income households the most. $1,100 incentive for the bike if you're a lowish income household, and then $100 extra for helmet, lock, etc. And if it's a cargo bike that you can go to the grocery store, you get an extra $300.
Awesome.
And then
Very nice.
for middle income families, $500, $100, and $300 respectively. And the cool thing is you're going to apply online. They're going to get slammed with requests, I'm sure, so they'll probably dole them out with a lottery, but they're going to give you a voucher that you can go to the retailer, find the e-bike, learn about the e-bike, and then they take it off right at the point of purchase. So you don't have to pay for it and get money back on your tax return a year later. So here's hoping all the other states follow this program and do something similar, because there's a lot of great parts of the country where you can do Russell could do an e-bike all year. If you're in Minnesota, Ontario, maybe not so much, but there's definitely people here in Colorado that bike 350 days a year. Not that easy, but I see them.
Mm-hmm.
And Portland,
a lot easier with an e-bike though compared to the regular bike in Colorado.
Well,
I'm sure.
And even if you only use it 6 months of the year and leave the car parked, that helps everybody. And e-bikes need very little maintenance. They don't need registration, insurance, tolls, all the crap that goes with a car. I mean, the cost per mile is almost zero to operate them compared to a vehicle. So, good for Colorado.
Yay! Good for Colorado and good for everybody.
Definitely a program that would be great to see brought to other states, because our focus on cars.
We did legal weed and everybody copied us. So
You did legal weed.
Thank you for that, by the way. Just
yeah, we'll see.
Yeah.
Don't forget, you can
don't
always
mix the weed with the e-bike.
You can ride it to go pick up your weed, but don't imbibe.
don't do it at the same time.
probably not a good plan. Yeah.
And just remember, because I'm actually deciding if I'm going to go attend in person or do the Zoom version next week. But my local city is doing my local county is doing the sustainable future planning for the county, and I was just like, should I go in person, or will I have time to go where it is up in my town, or should I go to the Zoom session, which is the week after? Because I just found out about it today. So if this is something you like, don't forget, you can bring it up. You can bring it to your county board of supervisors. You can bring it up to your city council, to your mayor. You can get the ball rolling. You do not have to wait for them to see this and say, hey, that sounds like a good idea. Because remember, if you're going to wait for another human being to have a bright idea, you're going to be waiting a long, long time. Bring it up yourself.
Especially if you're waiting for me.
Hey.
Yeah, Bruce brings up a good point in the chat. If you are biking, be safe out there. A lot of times bike lanes are next to cars, and you could be endangering yourself, so be careful.
Now, depending where you live, here in Boulder, there's probably 100 miles of off-street bike paths that they do allow e-bikes on up to a certain speed, which you might hit a jogger or a pedestrian, but you're not going to get hit by another car. And there's a great network to get around where you don't have to deal with 3-ton behemoths right beside you.
That's great. And you don't have to breathe those exhaust.
Yeah. I mean, this is the other reason we need things like this Colorado subsidy. We need to get more e-bikes out there to put more pressure on municipalities to make it easier and safer to ride a bicycle. We have spent over a century making everything perfect for the car. And
to improve air quality. I mean, historically in the summer in Colorado, the smog can get bad just because of the geography. And last year they did free transit for the month of August in the Denver, Boulder metro area. Looks like this summer it's going to be July and August free transit to incentivize people to leave their cars at home. So every little bit helps.
That's brilliant.
Yeah, there are parts of Portland where they've rearranged things so that you have the road, the driving lane, and then you have parking, and then you have the bike lane, and then the sidewalk.
Right.
So that bikers are next to the
cars.
Yeah. And
That's
yeah,
great.
someone might still open a door into you, but it's not the moving traffic that you have to go into to swerve around them. It's so little things like that, they all help.
Yes.
I was passing a bicyclist the other day on FSD beta, and it was recently updated to another version. And normally it does give room to the bikers. If it can't give room, it just kind of rides behind you. It's uncomfortably close, and waits. But this time, like, there was nobody coming for a long way the other way, and it just took up the middle of the road to give the biker the room they needed while it did the pass. And I thought that was
That's cool.
a nice touch.
Yeah.
They do a lot of talking about vulnerable road users, but it's always nice to actually see it implemented.
Very cool.
There you go. Thank you so much. Next up, Patrick. Patrick, let's start with the first one.
Okay.
I don't even know how this company, in fact, let me introduce it by saying this. I've noticed that Faraday Future is reared up on their hind legs again. They've made 3 cars, and that's like a big deal. Now let's hear about something even more pathetic.
But
that is the
how many of
perfect
those Faraday
introduction.
cars are made out of styrofoam?
Okay, yeah. So this story is not about Faraday; it's
Nope.
about Nikola. Nikola Motors is a company that we've been following since its inception on this channel. We were skeptical of them from the start. The red flags were there. They seemed to be incentive chasing when they were going from CNG to hydrogen to batteries with no real expertise in any of those technologies. We criticized Trevor Milton for extracting a ton of money for his mansion when they IPO'd via a SPAC, when they had no revenue to speak of, and yet he's building the biggest house in Utah. And I think I said something like, good luck if you're investing in this. I'm not going to do it, not even with Russell's money.
Wait, I gave you all that cash. You told me
All
you had my
$5? You didn't put that in?
Sorry, yes.
We got one frappuccino, and Russell's money was gone.
And then the Hindenburg research report came out in 2020, and they accused Nikola of taking components from suppliers, taping over those labels, and trying to pass it off as their own technology. And the even bigger, much more maligned, of taking their semi-truck and rolling it down a hill and passing that off as their operational drivetrain. So after that, the CEO, Trevor Milton, stepped down following the Hindenburg report. Milton was later charged with 4 crimes, and he was convicted of 3 of those in October of 2022 after a 12-day trial. There were 2 counts of wire fraud and 1 count of securities fraud. So prosecutors claimed that Milton was saying anything that he thought would make the stock go up. And while selling the stock, he was initially, I think, a 26% owner, and he sold his way all the way down to 11%. So even though he's been convicted, Milton has appealed, and he's out on $100 million bail bond. And his appeal, they're citing social media posts by the jurors saying that CEOs get paid too much, and using that to claim that he didn't get a fair trial. And well, I know of anybody who's not a CEO that thinks CEOs get paid too little. So good luck ever finding a jury that's not going to think.
The only way that you do the $1 trick.
Right, and even then, if you're getting stock that's going crazy. Anyway, so that's the background. Now the update to this story. This comes to us from 24/7 Wall Street. They point out that Nikola stock is down 99%. So your $5, Russell, turned into 5 cents. The stock is imploding, and it's unlikely to survive. The company's unlikely to survive. And frankly, who still owns and holding this after all the stuff that this has been since 3 years of this stuff, since the Hindenburg report came out. So the article states that this semi-truck maker has entered a crowded market and couldn't compete. And I completely disagree with that framing. Or let me say it another way. That is totally BS. That's ignoring everything we just talked about, which I would say is partially to blame. So it's not just that they couldn't compete. There's a lot more shenanigans
They
happening.
didn't have a product.
Right. Yes. So Nikola has now asked shareholders to allow them to issue more shares to raise cash. And management has said if the shareholders do not agree to this dilution, the company might not make it as a going concern. So Nikola has also said, we're about to produce our first hydrogen truck. So I don't know how much they raised from their IPO, but if they had that and all their venture capital and they still haven't done their hydrogen truck, anyway,
Is
red flags today.
is there hydrogen
battery
truck this
truck that you're
big?
already making?
Well, I have to love this quote from Nikola's CEO, Michael Louscheller. Nikola had a very solid quarter, building sales momentum with Class 8 battery electric truck deliveries to customers and orders for 140 hydrogen fuel cell trucks from customers.
Right.
Wow, solid. It lost
Right.
$169 million with a revenue of $11,000.
$11,000. Yes. Yeah. So that's yeah. so they let me give a little more context with that, and I'm almost done here. So another thing, their stock is down so much that NASDAQ requires you to have at least $1 trading value, and they are below that. So they would be doing a reverse split to get back to that $1 level while they're issuing more shares, which would dilute their stock, pushing it down. So yeah, it's and then they've had $11,000 in revenue in a recent quarter where they lost $169 million. In that quarterly report, they said that they have $120 million, $121 million in the bank, which is less than 1/4 of burn time. If you're losing $169 million every quarter and you have less than that, your life is short. So when that is the case, and your CEO is saying you have a solid quarter, I don't know what business school he went to, but simple math says they're in big trouble. That's not a solid quarter.
It just sounds to me like if you want to pick up some furniture for cheap, just wait outside the Nikola office. It's going to be a liquidation sale coming real soon.
Sounds like it.
The concern I have is for the few customers that actually received a truck. And I know they're big companies, but still, nobody deserves to have this happen to them.
Right.
But
ask Coda owners how they feel about that.
Huh?
Ask Coda owners how they feel about owning.
Right. It's the same situation as Coda. It's like, is somebody going to take over their support contract? Because normally companies won't buy something like this without some sort of guarantee that it's going to be serviced and it's going to have, not just the warranty, but also like an uptime warranty and all that sort of thing. And then if they go out of business, is this backed by somebody else, like with a proper insurance company, or is somebody going to buy the pieces, including the support contracts for these customers? Or because we do need to electrify all the things, and so like the orphan 300 trucks or less is still 300 trucks or so that
will be sent.
We're
to
not burning diesel.
Unfortunately,
say again.
They'll be scrapped because no one's going to support them.
Yeah.
Right. They are stained. The company is tainted. And yes, we do need this technology, absolutely. But that doesn't mean that a new startup like Thor or whatever can't take this place, or an existing company like Daimler. There's Freightliner. There's lots of opportunities, and I'm surprised it's taken this long to put all the nails in the coffin, because I've heard the whole story about how this started. Yeah.
I thought that they going down the mountains and then the Hindenburg, because they didn't just push it down a hill. They pushed it down a hill and then tilted the camera so it looked like it was driving level.
Yeah, because no car company's ever cheated on a promotional video.
They usually put that text at the bottom: professional driver, close course, or they make it like a prototype model.
Yeah,
or actually not driving under its own power.
Hey. Gravity is a power.
Yeah.
And it's over the Mount Shasta, it'll do the same for you too.
It's the most common force in the universe too. It's like universal. It's more universal than hydrogen.
It's sustainable power. You just keep
It's
Which can only
renewable.
go one
You
direction.
just take it to the top of the hill, and it will come down the hill.
And you'll go down.
Right.
That's-
Hey,
long
you
as
guys
you
want to
never have
invest
to
in our
go
new
up.
startup, Gravity Motors? Because we're taking donations.
All right, I need my 121 million because
We're
definitely
already rich.
Gravity Motors.
Already crypto millionaires right now.
And now we're not.
And now we're
That's-
yep, that's it. It's over.
Oh, that
This
was
is
fun
this
while it
segment as
lasted.
evidence.
And we're all due in court tomorrow.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. And Trump's attorneys are there at the table waiting for you. So
Well, they have more chance with
True.
us
yeah.
getting us out.
Next up, I want to talk about something that Georgia and I ran into on Twitter. Twitter Charles Gaba,
Yeah.
who isn't paying for this account, by the way, according to his Twitter handle, but asked a question, and I love to try and put this in front of the panel. So let me read his tweet, and I will throw it over to you folks here. He says, Charles says, okay, folks, my wife is now faced with having to replace her beloved 2004 Forester. She can't go fully electric for various reasons, but wants to move either to a hybrid or a plug-in hybrid, 2020 or newer, small SUV, or possibly a small pickup. Before you say it, yes, she really does need something a bit more rugged and heavy duty. That's fine. Some people do. We've ruled out the Ford Escape and have mostly narrowed it down to the Hyundai Santa Fe or Tucson or the Kia Sportage. I like to call that the Kia Sportage. That rhymes with sewage, but anyway, or the Kia Sorento, possibly the Toyota RAV4. The biggest headache right now are all the headaches that we have talked about on this show for the last year and a half, 2 years, which are nobody has stuff on lots. Everybody's marking things up. It's difficult right now to buy a car. So, panel, what do we recommend for Charles' wife to replace her beloved 04 Forester with?
RAV4 Prime.
RAV4 Prime.
That's an excellent choice.
I guess we agree.
So I
Kia
would
Hyundai gas. Anything with a Kia Hyundai with a gas engine is garbage.
I would totally agree with you on the RAV4 Prime. Of course, it's going to be hideously expensive and hard to get.
Yeah.
Let's acknowledge that, if that's what it is. But the more important thing came from the one mechanic on the panel. I'm sorry, Paul. Could you repeat what you just said, please?
I said, do not buy a Kia or Hyundai with a gasoline engine because they are garbage.
Okay.
And they depreciate. Like in 5 years, the Kia or Hyundai will be worth a lot less than the RAV4 Prime will be worth relative to its purchase price. Guaranteed.
And clearly, your wife, Charles' wife, kept the 04 Forester going for a while. She doesn't seem like a buy it every 2 years. I'm going to lease it and I don't really care about it. She wants to get something and stay with it and be comfortable. I would agree with the RAV4 Prime, I think, or even the RAV4 Hybrid would be a good choice as far as reliability, holding its value. Sadly, Toyota dealers,
parts availability.
Thank you.
I would not go with the hybrid though.
Right.
No plug, no deal. It's got to be a
Right.
plug-in.
Yeah, you gotta be a plug. Because at least then you can insulate yourself from fuel cost increases on your commute. And then if we have any sort of disaster, like another pipe cut or whatever, you're not stranded. You just
Yeah,
keep
because
going a long trip.
the plug is a sensible amount of mileage for the RAV4. I think it's about
40
70 kilometers or 40 miles, something in that area.
Yeah.
So
I got
that'll
plenty of
definitely
customers-
cover.
Sorry, I was going to say, got plenty of customers who bought RAV4 Primes and put gas in the car every 4 to 6 months because so much of their driving they can do on the battery, and the occasional weekend trip or the occasional long day trip, but they're just blown away at the practicality of that vehicle. And if they need to go on a road trip, they don't have to worry about the charger being broken. They just go.
Yep.
Nice.
So,
And it's actually not terribly expensive, depending on where you go, because I'm seeing a new 2023 Toyota RAV4 Prime SE, $45,000.
Yeah, unfortunately,
Then,
there's no
the battery's big enough for the tax.
I want to buy 2 of those.
Yeah, that's just what I was wondering, Casey, too. If it plugs in, you can get incentives depending on the battery size. So look for both state and federal incentives, and then even some electric utilities have incentives. So check with your electric utility. Some state Department of Energy they have incentives that may be different from the state incentives. So check all those out.
Some will
So
pay for
unfortunately,
your
the federal
home charger.
credits to get maximum incentives, it's got to be made in North America. And as of now, all the RAV primes are made in Japan. However, the RAV hybrid, which is very similar, is made in North America. So if they just retooled that line to do the RAV4 prime as well, boom, everybody would want it.
Toyota?
Are you listening?
Yeah, so it's not gonna do that.
They are not listening. For the record.
They don't want to sell more of their product.
If they won't listen to Musk, they're not going to listen to us.
I'm
A
going
few
to
people on their board have been listening, and they're upset with the CEO. They want to oust him.
I'm also going to suggest that, and I know that there's going to be a little disagreement with this. So, but I agree with all of the good reasons to buy the RAV4 Prime. But let's also be realistic again. She's coming from a Forester, a gas car.
Mm-hmm.
It's not. So if the Prime is unavailable where she's at, or she can't get it, or the price is crazy, getting a RAV4 hybrid is a much better choice than buying a Kia or a Hyundai gas car.
Right, but as you just pointed out, assuming that they had this 2004 from when it was new, they're going to hold this vehicle for a long time. And over the next decade, the world's going to change a lot. And yes, I think
think about the gas savings over 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
I realize the price may be higher at the beginning, as it is with all electric cars at this point. But the savings with the fuel costs will pay it back over that 10 years, guaranteed.
And maintenance on my Volt, I was doing over 12,000 miles a year, and I had one oil change every year and a half, just because that's how infrequently the engine fired up.
Right, you're insuring yourself against crazy gas prices.
Again, I agree with all of those points. Absolutely, none of
He's going to have to take a trip for his wife if they're not local.
Yeah, I mean, I think it works for me.
Yeah,
there you go. Okay, well, Charles, I hope that helps. Thanks so much for and thanks to Georgia for fielding that and reaching out on Twitter. Every once in a while, we can actually dispense some real world advice.
Yeah, that's right.
We have a pretty short time. I think maybe let's just do some shout outs and we can go home and we can pick this up where we left off next week. Is that okay? Or does anybody have anything that
got a cute dump truck?
So moved.
Anybody got a one last thing?
Okay, good. No. You almost got it in. I will give you credit. That was beautiful. Let's do some shout outs and go home. Mr. Casey Green, go ahead, sneak it in.
All right, so the dump truck or the one or the
No, it's called shout outs and go home.
Shout outs and go home, my friend.
You can catch me on Sundays at youtube.com/Casey Green or at Casey Green, and Sundays at 1:10 p.m. Eastern. And if you like this, same but longer, a little more free flowing, and I'll hope to see you there.
There you go. Your chance to act one-on-one or interact one-on-one with Mr. Casey Green every Sunday. Mr. Coughlin.
I'd like to ask you, if you're still here, please press that thumbs up. Gives us a subscribe if you haven't already. And through the week, if you want to find out what happens throughout the week between shows, follow us on the social medias. Just look up What Drives Us. We're everywhere. Click on that, and you can get an update through the week. I'd also like to thank West 5. That's West, the number 5.ca. It's a sustainable community in London, Ontario that I got to visit, and maybe I'll talk about this next week. But we had a wonderful visit at a net zero community, 70 acres, a divide up of both apartments, different houses, commercial space, whole community, all net zero, just buy solar. It was fabulous. We'll have to talk about it next week.
Awesome.
I love that. Yeah, that would be great. Thank you, Mark. And of course, do watch the only Tesla show worth watching, The Tesla Life, that features no less than 3 What Drives Us panelists. Am I supposed to be getting a royalty or something like that? Now that you're big time? I mean,
Yeah. You get 5% of every show.
So what you're saying is this is like my nickel investment. Okay.
Or was that a nickel investment?
Well, that too. That's about my investing strength right there. Mr. Connor, what's going on in the upper left corner of America?
Hello. I want to give a shout out to one of my neighbors. Someone I haven't talked to before, and I was out walking the dog, and she runs up to me as I'm going past the house. And I'm like, hello, hi. And she's like, okay, I saw that you guys drive electric and have solar, and I just want to promise to you, and she points to her car, said, those are the last 2 gas cars I'm ever going to buy. And I'm like, okay, thanks. Yeah, great. You don't have to apologize to me. I mean, I just thought that was hilarious.
Nice.
Like maybe they caught on to that.
Very nice. Patrick, do you have like a sweatshirt that says EV police or something that you wear around your house? I mean, are you intimidating your neighbors, my friend?
I guess so. Yeah. I thought it was funny that she felt like she had to apologize to me for driving gas. That's a very strange moment. And as always, I'm with the Oregon Electric Vehicle Association. You can find us at oeva.org, and I blog occasionally at carswithcords.net. You can go on there right now and find out whose birthday is coming up on July 1st.
I know.
And Mark knows. Oh, wait, Mark knows.
Canada.
It's Canada. Yes, of course. Canada. Canada Day.
Canada Day. Yay.
And you know how to spell Canada? C-A-N-A-D-A.
So it's just 3 letters?
Wow. My apologies, everyone, for the dad jokes. Thank you.
Dang, you guys.
Thank you.
Come on.
Mr. Guzik, what's happening in Boulder?
Well, we're still fixing broken hybrids and electric cars in Boulder, Colorado. So check us out at boulderhc.com. And we have a few hybrids and electric cars for sale. And unfortunately, some non-hybrids for sale that we get in on trade and stuff. But,
so how long before I can get my California Avalon hybrid from you?
Don't have any Avalons right now for sale.
Damn. Well, I
was going to go out and like
but they're a nice car.
Somebody force them to bring it over to you.
Yeah. That's okay. Georgia, Mackenzie.
No,
the
me.
microphone is yours.
Wow. It's back again. I thought I got rid of it last week. Thanks for hanging out with us. You've been with us for a full 58 minutes. It means you like us. You really do like us. So I'm going to presume you already hit subscribe. If you haven't, gone ahead and do that. And if you like this show, hit like as well so that the algorithm knows this is a pretty cool show and it's worth it to send to people who like what you like and want to know more about sustainability and EVs. And while you're at it, when you're done here, go on over, hang out with Casey. He's got his chats on Sundays. Hang out with him and Motico, talking all kinds of stuff. Not to mention his DLC reviews and how-tos when he's working on his Tesla, training them to take over the world. We will fight you, Casey. And when you're done, you can head on over to Tesla Life. Hang out with Mark and learn more about what's happening with Tesla, all things Tesla. And I am really looking forward to that sustainable community there, Mark. Tell us more. When you're done with that, you want to learn a little bit more, you want to read, head on over to carswithcords.net, hang out with Patrick, see what he's up to, what he's teaching you about, because he's got some pretty cool information on his website about all things solar and Powerwall and CharIN. And when you're done, well, if you need a car and you're in Boulder, you know where to go. You got Paul. Boulder Hybrids. Hang out with Paul, see what he's got on the lot. we'll pretend we didn't hear about those ICE cars that he took in. Maybe they'll just, go away. And but you can pick up a pretty well maintained and affordable hybrid or EV if they're in the lot. And thank you so much for hanging out with us. And I have not much else to shout out except you guys. Thanks for hanging out with us last week and this week, dealing with Casey and myself taking over the hosting in our in own inimitable fashion. Thank you once again, and good old welcome back to Russell, who we did miss having around. Back to you, Russell.
Did you sneak the word old in there on purpose? I'm just curious.
Oh my God, sensitivity much?
Yeah, exactly.
Snowflake.
I admit, I kind of overplayed that. I admit that. Hey, I got a really cool thing from my friend
What's
Shelly
that?
on Twitter, who makes stuff. And look at this. I've always wanted one of these, and I just happened to mention it, and she's like, "Oh yeah, I can do that." And I'm like, "Okay, I just want you to know this is like, for me, the level of technology represented here is so far beyond my ken." But I sent her a sketch, and she did it, and she made it and sent it. Thank you, Shelly.
Wow.
Nice.
I
And
love-
Beetlejuice inspired.
I
That's
love
what I was saying. It's Beetlejuice.
my canvas microphone cover. Yeah, it makes me really
Nice.
happy. As always, I want to thank Michael Manring for his amazing theme music. Visit him at manthing.com. Buy a song, buy an album, buy something. He's also always on the road playing. If he comes to your town, which usually is located in Northern California. Yes, Michael, I'm throwing that barb at you. Come down here once in a while. See him. He's amazing. I want to thank once again Georgia McKenzie and Casey Green for keeping the lights on while I was gone, and everybody else who participated. I want to thank Georgia and Casey and Mark and Patrick and Paul for being here this week. Thanks to everybody in the chat room. It was really nice being away for 3 weeks because I came back and I was like, I can't wait. And that's a beautiful feeling. I miss doing this. So I look forward to seeing you all next week when you can tune in and find out what drives us. Thank you, Casey.
Take your vacations, y'all. Recharge yourself.
Have a great week, everybody.